I'm not gonna lie, y'all, I'm really bummed out at the moment. Bummed out would be an understatement. I made a video earlier today about how Marjorie Taylor Greene is once again calling for a national divorce. I thought I did a good job of comprehensively breaking down why that's a terrible idea and why there is no such thing as red states versus blue states. Red states are all heavily gerrymandered, purple states with a lot of voter suppression going on. And that this idea that a binary exists where there's red states and there's blue states is just completely false. Every state in the United States has people who voted for Donald Trump. Every state in the United States has people who voted for Kamala Harris. And I have been pushing back against this narrative that it's red states versus blue states, and that the blue states are angry at the red states and are saying red states can get fucked. They can, fuck around and find out, red states. You got to face the consequences of your actions. Lots of just horrible, horrible comments and even videos on social media from protected, privileged blue voters in blue states who just want to look down their noses at people in red states and assume all of them are like ignorant, hick MAGA Trumpers. And well, this is what you get. I hope that you get everything that you voted for. Since day one, I have pushed back against that narrative because in every red state, there are hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people who did not vote for Donald Trump and do not want this. There are children in every single state in this country. No child voted for Donald Trump. And there are blue voters in every single red state. Voters who are often the most marginalized and pretty overtly oppressed members of those states. Where Republicans have the power, the blue voters are being, one, actively disenfranchised, their votes are being suppressed, and two, they are probably members of marginalized groups that have it's very, very difficult. It's very difficult to be a Black person, to be a trans person, to be an immigrant, to be a disabled person, to be a child in a red state. And so I get really angry when I see people in blue states who are like, fuck those guys, they get what they deserve. I'm like, y'all are you're feeding into that narrative that there is this split in the country that is like state by state. And people like Marjorie Taylor Greene reinforce that. She's been calling for a national divorce since February. She thinks red states should become a separate country. First of all, she's a fucking nut job and also an anti-Semite and also just like a terrible person. So I posted this video and I was like trying to use it as a way to communicate, hey, y'all, we need to remember that blue dots exist, marginalized people exist in every red state, and that actually we need all of us in the United States to join together to fight against fascism. We need to stop thinking of ourselves in terms of state lines and start thinking of each other as human beings, as American citizens, as people who do not deserve to be oppressed under fascism. And of course, I reminded people that 6+ million Californians voted for Donald Trump. More Californians voted for Donald Trump than people in a lot of these red states. But California went blue, and so if you are a blue dot in that blue state, you're like, yeah, we should secede. Our state's awesome. Fuck the red states. And it's so disheartening to see people from their comfortable protected position in a blue state say, fuck everybody in red states. And pretend that like your state is somehow better. It's real weird. It's real weird. When I point out the fact that I get Canadians in my comments a lot who are like, fuck America, y'all are all on your own. Y'all voted for Donald Trump. People in blue states are always like, I didn't vote for Donald Trump. My state didn't vote for Donald Trump. And I'm like, do you not understand that Canadians are doing the same thing that you are doing to people in red states? Why is it that you get to draw the boundary at the state line and Canadians are drawing it at our national border? You could just as easily say America elected Donald Trump as this red state voted for Donald Trump. When you say Oklahoma can get fucked, I hope they get everything they voted for. I hope that they, all lose their jobs and they all lose their Medicaid and all their whatever horrible, hateful things that you're saying about people in Oklahoma. Do you not understand? You're saying that about millions of people who did not vote for this and do not want this and are not responsible for the reality that we're living now. But you what? Like you want collective punishment? You want collective retribution? You want to feel really good about watching other people suffer who didn't vote for this because you've been able to dehumanize them as just like a red state. You don't think about them as individual people. You just think red state. I'm angry at red states. Red states are populated by human beings, by your fellow Americans. So when I posted this video about Marjorie Taylor Greene and her call for a national divorce and how that's a terrible, terrible idea, what we need now is solidarity. What we need now is to build a huge coalition, a united America to push back against fascism. I reposted that video over to the platform where I do long form content, and it really popped off. And the comments they make me really, really sad, because I am seeing so many comments from people who are protected blue dots in blue states who are basically just like, fuck red states. Again, this like Cascadia, we should all secede. I've had some of my mutuals saying this, and it makes me really mad. Yeah, you're a Californian saying that you think the West Coast should secede. What a terrible, privileged take. What an absolutely terrible take. Wow, you're lucky enough to live in a state where a majority of voters voted for Kamala Harris, and so therefore you think that you have a right to punish blue dots and vulnerable people in red states who are not as privileged as you and didn't happen to live somewhere where most people voted for Kamala Harris. The comments on my YouTube video are just awful, and they're all from like Democrats, y'all. They're from people who think that they have a right to wish for the suffering of people in red states. And I got many comments from people who are saying things like, reinstate the North and the South. We need to put back the Mason-Dixon line. Are you fucking kidding me? So you're just saying like, oh, I'm going to abandon all Black people in the South. I'm going to abandon all trans and queer people in the South. I'm going to abandon all children in the South. I'm going to abandon my fellow Americans who don't have the privilege to live in a protected blue state, that they are just fucked, and I'm fine with that. Obviously, I know that a national divorce is not going to happen. What's so disheartening and discouraging to me is that this mindset is so prevalent. I truly, truly believe the way out of this is that we have got to remind the other side of our humanity, and that we must remember theirs as well. Dehumanization is the root of all of this. It is the thing that empowers people to commit violence against each other. Those aren't red states, those are Americans. Millions and millions and millions of whom do not support what the regime is doing. Those are your allies. Those people are in solidarity with you. Those people are the folks that you need to be advocating for from your protected position in a blue state. You should be defending their liberty. You should be working to advocate for them. When we look at effective resistance movements, one of the number one things that we have to do is not abandon the most vulnerable. We have got to advocate for the most vulnerable. Anybody from a marginalized group in a red state where Republicans control the state legislature and maybe they have a Republican governor, we have got to protect and defend those people. We've got to advocate for them. Our fight is for us and for them. We need to be in solidarity with them. Fascism hurts all of us, no matter who we voted for. And so many Trump voters really didn't understand what they were voting for. They believed what Donald Trump said when he said he was going to make America great again. He was going to bring back their jobs. He was going to raise their quality of life. The way that we get out of this, the way that we end this madness and restore a stable government and build something better in the future, is that we have to bring everybody into the movement to stop fascism and create an America of, by, and for the people. We have to remember that we actually are in solidarity with all of the working class. We actually have to be in solidarity with people in red states. This rhetoric of a national divorce, this rhetoric of red versus blue, you need to jettison that. You need to learn to let that go. If you're angry, be angry at the regime. Be angry at the corporations that are supporting the regime. Be angry at the pillars of support, the power players that are making sure that a weak autocrat like Donald Trump stays in power. Please stop turning your anger, your righteous anger, into a desire for punishment that is focused on vulnerable people in red states. And remind yourself that the construct of a red state is entirely artificial. Those are purple states with intense voter suppression, intense gerrymandering, long histories of systemic oppression, systemic racism, systemic poverty. And Donald Trump, the billionaires, the oligarchy, they exploit that dynamic in order to exert control and manipulate voters. How do we get out of this situation? We have to all join together as Americans. Begging you, y'all, please, please think about the rhetoric that you've clearly internalized if you're saying shit like we should have a national divorce or that red states deserve to suffer. Please think about how you are letting the regime work on you. How your position is actually harming the cause that you say you care about. Please, y'all, we have to be strategic. We have to be just. We have to think beyond our anger in order to join together and stop fascism.